What kind of exercises can you do on a boat when you don't have any equipment at your disposal? Hi, I'm Nika Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley podcast. Today I'm talking about 4 do anywhere exercises. And yes, do anywhere also means on the boat. Today's episode of the Boat Galley podcast is sponsored by Shambhala Sailing Adventures, offering customized learning charters in the Exumas, Bahamas. Sailor like you own her, with coaching from Captain Suki Cannon. Contact her at captainsuki@gmail.com. That's CAPTAINSUKY@gmail. Mention this podcast for 10% off. Cruising can be a very, very physically demanding lifestyle. You're constantly in motion from waves and water. Daily activities like laundry and grocery shopping, they involve a lot more planning and forethought than they do on land. And the space constraints, even on a larger boat, can make regular chores like getting ready for dinner a tad acrobatic. These physical challenges mean that having a regular exercise routine on board, it's actually even more important than having one on land. Cruising is physical, and there are a lot of opportunities to keep yourself active. But if you have some kind of a dedicated exercise routine, it's going to make you stronger and more flexible just in general. In an ideal world, you'll take what you do on land and modify it just a teeny tiny little bit to make it work for you on the boat. But practically speaking, boat workouts can be difficult. There are a couple of things that make life a little bit harder on a boat than they are on land. That movement that I talked about, it can throw your balance off in really unexpected ways. And that space limitation, often that really involves overhead space and side-to-side space that's wide open. You might not be able to jump. You might not be able even to stretch your arms over your head or to cover large amounts of ground during a cardio session. What can you do? Well, here are 4 exercises with modifications for space and wave action that you really can do anywhere. The most important thing is to start a routine that you can get comfortable with right now, whether you're thinking about going cruising, actively planning, or actually out there. So number 1, this doesn't sound like an exercise, but try it a few times, and I think you're going to understand why I have it in here. Just plain level changes. Sit down, stand up, get to the floor, get back up, sit back down, get back down, stand back up. Do that 10 times. You will likely be out of breath. As a practical matter, sit on your settee, stand up, get yourself all the way down to the floor, stand all the way back up, sit back down on the settee, stand back up, go all the way down to the floor. There's no real issue with space limitation because you're not sprawling, you're not reaching, you're not doing anything other than in a space that you already have. You may have to watch your head. I know on our boat, if I do this, the table kind of comes out over the settee, but I can always do it on the starboard side instead of on the port. And if the boat's rocking, just help yourself out. Use a hand to stabilize. You can also do this in the cockpit. You could do this on the side deck. And you can also do this down below. Now we're into something that might sound a little bit more like exercise that you're used to hearing about. It's a leg lift. Lie on your back. If you put your hands underneath your tailbone and kind of press your belly button towards your spine, it will help you keep your core tight. You'll also feel your back go flat against your hands. Lift your legs toward the ceiling, and then slowly lower your legs together toward the floor. The reason I have you put your hands underneath the small of your back, kind of right at the edge of your tailbone, when your back starts to come up off the floor, that means you've done enough, and raise your legs back up and repeat. If you have space limitations, don't lift your legs up that high. Or you could do this on the foredeck or the side deck. If the boat's rocking it might be more challenging to stay flat on your back. And so you might not be able to lift your legs up as high. But the cool thing is there's no concern about falling because you're already on the ground. Exercise number 3, or exercise kind number 3, knee raises. Essentially, this is marching in place. And this exercise works your legs, your balance, and if you speed up, it actually can make you sweat. So stand straight with your back, almost pretend your back is against a wall. Bring one knee up as high as you can before lowering it and then raising the other one. If you keep your back straight, and this is where if you use that trick of pressing your belly button in kind of towards your spine, that's a good way to help keep your back straight. Aim to bring your knee directly up in front of you instead of out to the side. Do this 50 times on each side. I think you're going to find you've gotten some exercise in there. If you have a space limitation in terms of space in front of you, orient yourself. You may have to go sideways. On my boat, I could stand in front of the engine and do it. I can't do it I don't have the space if I'm standing next to the table, but I do in front of the engine. Orient yourself to have the space that you need for your knees to come up straight. And if you can't stand up inside the boat, if my husband were doing this, there are 2 places on our boat that he can stand up. I'm shorter. I can stand up all over. Do this in the cockpit. I wouldn't think it's going to look strange, but if you're concerned and worried about what people are going to say, then do it inside. You also could do this sitting down, which is actually a modification if the boat is rocking. You can sit down, make sure your back is straight, and just lift up your knee one at a time. You can do this actually in the car. Talk about a do-anywhere exercise. You can do this while you're driving. Use one hand for balance if you need to, if the boat is rocking. 4th exercise, plank to pike. This is another one of these exercises that is actually deceptively challenging. When you repeat it a few times, it's going to build up a sweat. It works a whole lot of muscles in a really small amount of space, so it's ideal for life kind of anywhere you happen to be. This one you can't really do in the car, but I believe I have done it on a bus before and on the train. Maybe even the aisles of an airplane. I can't remember. Start with your belly on the ground with your hands under your shoulders. Slowly push yourself up into a plank position, kind of like you're about to do a push-up with your back flat. And then pretend that you're a giant puppet with somebody pulling your hips up to the ceiling, putting yourself into a pike position. Slowly lower back down to plank, and then repeat. You'll find that your shoulders stretch back behind your hands when you're piked up, but they should be back in position over your hands when you go back to plank. Space limitation. This one should be okay wherever you are, unless you try to do it under a table. And I suppose if that's your workout space, then my suggestion would be to go underneath the table, pike up as high as you can, and then hold it. And then go back down to plank and hold it. If the boat's rocking, spread your feet and hands farther apart to provide a wider point of balance. Or if you are underneath the table, brace your butt on the underside to keep you stable. Who knows? However you do it, find a way to exercise. Even if it's something small, think about the muscles you're using and what you're targeting. And if you focus really hard, you will get in a nice workout, even if it's small and even if the boat is rocking. I can't wait to see you out there. Thanks again to our sponsor.